shot. More from Caroline Bonkin.
Romeo Jimenez got a single dose of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine mid-last year. He's set to get boosted but backed out because he's offered a different brand.
Nagdalawang isip ako kasi ang gusto ko kasi talaga is parehas po nung Johnson & Johnson. Ayoko po na baka sa bandang uli magkaroon po ng side effect sa aking katawan. Hindi po kaya dahil senior na po kasi ako.
He's among millions the government's wooing to get an additional dose as public interest in booster shots drop. As of Sunday, only 26% of eligible vaccinees got boosted. Over 240 million COVID-19 vaccines are in stock. Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion fears 27 million doses will expire in June and July if left unused. Mostly AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Pfizer vaccines purchased by the private sector and local governments, some COVAX facility donations. Its estimated value, $270 million or nearly 14 billion pesos. Early this year, the government borrowed about 40 billion pesos to buy booster shots alone.
Dumating po ng sabay-sabay. Kung mas maaga sana na i-distribute natin at naibakuna yan, ang problema, karamihan sa kanila ay short expiry, yung tinatawag na shelf life.
To encourage booster vaccinations, Concepcion reiterates his call to make booster shot a requirement in entering establishments. He's suggesting its implementation by July, giving the public and government time to prepare. He worries another surge of breakthrough infections could hit the now recovering economy.
If we really want people to take the booster, then we will have to follow what we did with the vaccination card. No? Or else people will not really take it. No? They will take their time at masasayang rin.
Kasalukuyan tayong nagre-review kung pwede nang i-include ang booster or third dose as part of primary series. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, tingnan natin kung ano ang pwede pa nating maisagawa para ma-convince yung ating mga mamamayan pagkaroon ng booster doses.
On Friday, health spokesperson Maria Rosario Vergeres says a booster shot won't be required yet to be considered fully vaccinated. But what does the public think about it?
Hindi dapat gawing mandatory siya. Sapat na siguro yung meron kang first at second dose.
Okay na po yung vaccination card. Masyado na pong strict yung implementation kung isasama pa po natin yung booster.
Mas maganda nga na mandatory siya. Just to make sure na yung vaccine sa katawan mo ay may effect pa.
Kailangan din lahat i-require. Kasi para patas tayo.
The Vaccination Operations Center has asked the FDA to extend vaccines' shelf life. They're also sending stocks to vacuna centers like hospitals. And still on the table, the Philippines donating vaccines to other countries. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
The government plans to put an expiration date on COVID-19 vaccination cards. The Interior Government says this is to encourage more people to get their booster shots.
Isa po yan sa pinag-uusapan namin ngayon. Inuulit ko yung mga strategiya on the policy side para yung tao ma-force na magpabakuna or magpa-boosters. So isa dyan, nabanggit ko na kanina, the definition of fully vaccinated. At pangalawa, ito nga posibilidad na kung hindi ka pa nakakapag-booster, after 6 months, automatic yung iyong vax card expired na.
Meantime, presidential candidate Yodi de Guzman lists suggestions to make sure millions of COVID-19 vaccines will not expire. Among them, identify areas with the lowest vaccination rate and the most number of vulnerable sector, boost funds for cold chain facilities and other logistical needs, ramp up house-to-house and all-day vax drives, and address vaccine hesitancy at the barangay level. The Health Department is in talks with the World Health Organization about the Omicron XE, a hybrid of the BA1 and BA2 subvariants. This comes after Thailand reported its first case of the mutant hybrid. In a statement, the DOH says it is monitoring whether WHO would categorize it as an Omicron subvariant or a new variant. The United Kingdom's Health Security Agency referred to Omicron XE as the recombinant of the Omicron subvariants BA1 and BA2. It reported that as of mid-March, the hybrid strain has a growth rate 9.8% above that of BA2, which is the dominant Omicron subvariant in the Philippines. The DOH says it is also working with the Philippine Genome Center to monitor COVID-19 case trends and conduct genomic surveillance activities. It assures safety measures are in place to prevent the entry of the new and existing variants. Government data shows over 1.7 million Filipinos are working overseas, and their remittances are helping fuel economic recovery. The newly created Migrant Workers Department aims to make things easier for OFWs to access their documents and ask help from the government. As Tristan Nodal reports, the department secretary is also urging relevant agencies to abide by the law.
After enduring a 9-hour trip from Ilocos Province, OFW Frenny Tacla went straight to the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration building to process her papers for Israel. This is her third time to work abroad, but she admits it's a challenge going from one agency to another. She is hopeful the newly created Department of Migrant Workers can solve that.
Nakakalito din lalo na yung mga nasa malalayo, pupunta pa kung saan pagod kami. Gaya ko, galing pa akong Ilocos, wala pa akong tulog, diretso ako dito. Pero kung isa na lang pupuntahan mo, diretso na lang sa kaysa sa iba-ibang kuwan.
She says it would be more convenient if they can process documents in their home provinces.
Mas maganda yun. Kesa pupunta ka pa ng Manila.
Department of Migrant Workers Chief Abdullah Mamao vows speedy transactions for OFW documents under the new department. President Duterte signed Republic Act 11641, or the law creating the Department of Migrant Workers, in December 2021. Government agencies dealing with OFW concerns will be under the new department. The DMW has a 2-year transition phase before it becomes fully operational in 2023.
After the preparation and approval of the IRR, we will be preparing the staffing pattern. That will be based on the implementing rules and regulations. Then from the approval of the staffing pattern, we will be preparing the proposed budget for the year 2023.
But interpretations of the law vary, with the Labor Department insisting that attached agencies under DOLE will remain under its jurisdiction until DMW becomes fully operational. Mamao counters this.
If the Department of Labor is claiming that the ILAB, the Polo offices, the Repatriation Center in the OWA, and that of the Maritime Polytechnic Institute are still part of the Department of Labor, that is their own choice. And we are here dealing with the law. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm sticking with the law. I will decide, I will act, and I will do anything that has something to do with the law.
The Migrant Workers Chief also vows to expand the labor market for Filipinos by possibly lifting restrictions in Libya and Iraq. He will also study the prevailing deployment ban of household workers to Saudi Arabia. Tristan Nodalo, CNN Philippines.
CNN Philippines is reaching out to Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello to clarify his position on the Migrant Workers Department. Coming up on Newsnight, the Lacson Soto tandem drops another senatorial candidate from its slate for openly endorsing rival Bongbong Marcos. And Philam artists take the spotlight in this year's Grammy Awards. We walk you through the biggest night in music here on CNN Philippines.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The Commission on Elections is seeing a potential shift in voting patterns in this year's elections. The agency says young voters can pave the way for reforms. And as David Santos reports, that includes a generation of new political leaders.
Youth leaders in Metro Manila gathering in Marikina on Monday for a forum on responsible voting. Among those present, Kael Mata of Pasig.
Ilang basta yung pagboto, kundi dapat nauunawaan namin yung proseso.
Aside from taking part in a mock election, participants were also briefed on how the voting counting machines work, since many of them will also be first-time voters. Data shows the 2022 elections could be a national record with close to 66 million eligible voters. Of this number, 37 million are within the 18 to 41 age range, meaning, according to COMELEC, almost 6 in every 10 are considered young voters. In the 2019 elections, a third of the ballots cast were from young voters, which was significantly high for COMELEC. That number is expected to go up this year despite the pandemic.
Active sila ng registration, so therefore we believe that it is very possible, very likely in fact, that they will also be very active in the elections themselves.
The presence of young people in massive campaign rallies as well as their political engagements on social media could be a preview of the influx of young voters for this election cycle.
Makikita mo na instead of having people voting the way their elders voted, you have potentially a generation that votes the way they want to vote because they want to vote that way. And that will result in, I think, the possibility of a new generation of political leaders as well.
The change in voters' profile, officials hope, could also lead to a shift in voting behavior. This includes doing away with illegal election activities such as vote buying, which seem to have become the norm in many areas.
Nasa kabataan yung ating pag-asa. Kung mababago natin yung pananaw nila when they become adults, they will also resist vote buying.
The Interior Department will hold similar forums nationwide in the run-up to next month's elections. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
Are we seeing another group switching support for presidential candidates 35 days before the Filipino votes? A major volunteer network supporting Isko Moreno clarifies it has yet to decide whether it will follow the decision of its Cebu chapter to endorse Leni Robredo. Ikaw Muna Pilipinas Cebu Chairman Nick Malazarte believes Robredo has better chances of beating Bongbong Marcos. IM Pilipinas Secretary General Elmer Arganio says they respect the choice of their Cebu chapter. He adds their decision will be known in the coming days.
Malakas din ang agos ng suporta kay Leni doon, despite na may gumagalaw kami doon at pumunta na rin si Yorme, hindi pa rin siya umaakyat na maging serious contender ni Marcos Jr., at least in the province of Cebu.
The political party of Bongbong Marcos taking steps to, quote, safeguard his votes in the May 9 polls. Partido Federal ng Pilipinas General Counsel George Briones says the group will deploy nearly 16,900 volunteers as poll watchers in Central Visayas. He says this is to prevent any attempt to rig election results. While Ping Lacson and running mate Tito Soto have dropped fellow Senator Mig Zubiri from their slate after he openly endorsed the tandem of Marcos and Sara Duterte. Lacson says they have no hard feelings towards Zubiri for his personal decision.
No, alam naman nila yon kung ano yung consequence. Kung ayaw nila sa amin, iba yung gustong dalhin. Eh, parang awkward naman ang dalhin pa rin namin sila, hindi ba? So, it's a personal choice, no hard feelings. Pero yun ang sinabi, maliwanag naman yun when we talk to him, na pwede sila ma-endorse ng iba, ma-adapt ng iba. But once they endorse another team, another tandem, then so be it, and that's it.
Lacson also says he will inhibit from the Senate investigation into the unpaid estate tax of the Marcos family. Senator Coco Pimentel says the probe may happen within the week. Now, over the weekend, 9 of 10 presidential candidates gathered on one stage again to share their insights about key issues affecting the lives of millions of Filipinos. Paulo Barcelon breaks down their plans to make sure the supply of basic needs is enough in this report.
The final segment of the second Pilipinas Debates 2022 focused on issues that directly impact Filipinos' daily lives: energy, food, and water. Vice President Leni Robredo, Labor Leader Yoli de Guzman, and former Malacanang spokesperson Ernesto Abella were grouped together. Their talk dwelled on the use of renewable energy. All three candidates want cleaner energy sources in the mix, for they believe it will help address the country's power and environmental woes.
Pero ang problema, walang political will yung ating gobyerno para ipatupad ito. Kasi ang mas gusto ng ating pamahalaan na nagpalit-palit ay pagkakitaan talaga yung itong fossil fuel, lalo na yung coal.
So ang dapat unang gawin, asikasuhin na yung mga service contracts, asikasuhin na yung mga sources ng renewables. Alam na natin na papunta na tayo doon, so dapat mag-invest na tayo.
To develop, for example, solar, wind, turbine, and also biomass. No? Unahin po natin to, and we're open to consideration about nuclear, pero right now kasi there are risks involved.
Next up were Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso, former Defense Chief Norberto Gonzales, and Senator Panfilo Lacson. The three government officials were asked on how they plan to provide Filipinos access to clean and potable water for households and agriculture. Moreno says he wants water companies and cooperatives to invest in protecting and rehabilitating watersheds. Gonzales wanted repairs in the water system, while Lacson pushes for more investments in research and development.
Hindi pwedeng yung nahihirati na sila sa kita, ayaw na nila mag-reinvest. We must ask them. Anyway, if they are not, maybe I'll review their contracts.
Yan po ay milyon-milyong galon ang itinatapon o hindi inaayos. Ewan ko po kung nire-repair ulit.
Bakit hindi natin suportahan? Kasi maraming teknolohiya. Yung catch basin na limbawa, sagana tayo sa ulan. 50% of our cities and municipalities nasa coastal areas. Hindi pa tayo kinukulang sa tubig. Sagana tayo sa ulan, pero natatapon.
On concerns about food and nutrition, Senator Manny Pacquiao, Dr. Jose Montemayor, and Faisal Mangundato were asked how they will ensure the nutrition of Filipinos. One wanted a change in the form of government. The other two wanted to focus on helping the agriculture sector.
Kailangan po magkaroon tayo ng bagong sistema na ito ang federalismo doon sa bayanihan, constitution.
Tanggalin na natin yung rice tarification, no? Nagpapahirap sa ating mga magsasaka.
Pag nag-import tayo, mahirapan at pinapatay natin ang pangkabuhayan ng mga farmers natin. Hindi lamang farmers, pati yung mga fisher folks natin.
Paulo Marcelon, CNN Philippines.
Presidential hopefuls pushing for political reforms to address another nagging problem in government, corruption. CNR Canghel reports at least two of them agree on a law punishing turncoats, while one candidate draws criticism from his opponents for defending political dynasties.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, Yoli de Guzman, Norberto Gonzales, and Faisal Mangundato all blame a weak system for the rampant corruption in government. Moreno says his proposed solution is already being implemented in Manila.
To solve it is to limit human discretion in government transaction by adapting to technology. Yun yung specific kong gagawin, katulad ng ginawa namin sa Maynila.
For Vice President Leni Robredo, Senator Manny Pacquiao, and Joey Montemayor, corruption is caused by problems in the system and the people. If elected president, Robredo vows to sign an executive order mandating a full disclosure policy in government offices, while Pacquiao assures corrupt officials will go to jail under his watch. Senator Panfilo Lacson says leadership by example is key to weeding out corruption. He's also in favor of banning political dynasties, but admits it will be difficult to pass an enabling law since Congress is dominated by political families. Pacquiao drew criticism from Montemayor and Mangundato for saying it will be unfair to limit the number of family members holding public office.
Unfair naman doon sa mga pamilya na nagserbisyo ng tapat, malaki ang nagawang pagbabago sa kanilang lugar at nagtumutulong sa taong bayan. Hindi naman lahat na nagnanakaw din sa gobyerno.
The state prohibits political dynasties or dynasties. Ano? Kahit doon sa Ateneo study, makikita natin, thick and fat dynasty, talagang baw na bawal.
Yung sinabi ni Senator Manny Pacquiao na pwede raw yung pamilya as long as they voted by the people of their provinces. Hindi po. Dahil yan ang sanhi.
For Robredo and de Guzman, it's time to pass a law punishing political turncoats to discourage party switching ahead of the elections.
So habang inaalaw natin yung turncoatism, habang inaalaw natin yung palipat-lipat na partido, hindi natin maaasahan na lalakas yung mga political parties kasi pwede siyang i-dispose at any time.
Despite criticisms of the party-list system, Moreno and Montemayor want it to stay, but with additional safeguards to ensure marginalized sectors are represented. But for Mangundato, the party-list system should be abolished along with a shift to federalism. Cian Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
Marcos was again a no-show in the second Pilipinas debate organized by the COMELEC. Cobody says it will ask Congress to pass a law requiring all candidates to attend its debates. Straight ahead on News 9, more signs of peace after the Obiena-Patapa conflict. Association President Philip Nico no longer persona non grata. Plus, we tell you all about the BTS grand performance that trended after this break.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni Bay.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Athletics Track and Field Association President Philip Nico is no longer persona non grata in the eyes of the Philippine Olympic Committee. The status was lifted today along with Patato's suspension. This comes after the, quote, successful mediation hosted by the Sports Commission between the athletics body and pole vaulter E.J. Obiena, which was completed last week. Now, in the PBA, for the fourth time in 6 years, the Meralco Bolts will face defending champions Barangay Ginebra for the PBA Governors Cup Finals at 6 p.m. Wednesday. This year, Meralco is optimistic that it can finally score a win after losing in each one of its last 3 encounters against Ginebra.
I definitely think that this is definitely the year. You know, yeah, you could say third time's a charm, fourth time's a charm, but I think the most important takeaway here is persistence. I think everything that we've gone through up until now has prepared us for this moment.
And get ready to hear the roar of a live crowd in UAAP men's basketball games again by tomorrow. The Mall of Asia Arena matches will be open to a limited audience. On Saturday, the Ateneo Blue Eagles earned their 30th straight win at the expense of the De La Salle Green Archers, 74-57. Ateneo is currently the only team with 4 wins and no losses this season. And just in, UAE's Jack Santiago is suspended for 2 games over conduct unbecoming of a head coach. The UAAP commissioner says a thorough review showed Santiago told players to inflict harm on Richie Rivero in last Saturday's game against UP. Now, moving on to entertainment news, music's biggest night saw some massive wins from Filipino-American artists. One of them won all 4 categories his duo was nominated for. CNN's David Daniel has the highlights.
Welcome, everybody, to the 64th Annual Grammy Awards. We made it, people!
Trevor Noah returned as host for an often emotional Grammys. As traditional pop vocal album winner Lady Gaga serenaded her ailing musical partner, Tony Bennett. The show honored behind-the-scenes workers and stage crews who helped get artists back on the road after the lockdown.
Because after 2 years of canceled shows and postponed tours, nobody deserves the spotlight more than the people who actually put up that spotlight.
And John Legend performed with Ukrainian artists after a fervent appeal from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
On our land, we are fighting Russia, which brings horrible silence with its bombs, the dead silence. Feel the silence with your music. Feel it today to tell our story.
Chris Stapleton was among the performers who answered that call. He took home trophies for Best Country Album, Song, and Solo Performance.
And I know we weren't perfect.
Olivia Rodrigo is a 19-year-old triple Grammy winner, collecting Best Pop Solo Performance, Best Pop Vocal Album, and Best New Artist. Silk Sonic went 4 for 4, including Record and Song of the Year for Leave the Door Open.
We call that a clean sweep. That's what
But the night's biggest winner was Jon Batiste, who won 5 Grammys, including the night's final prize, Album of the Year, and marveled at the power of music.
It's like a song or an album is made and it almost has a radar to find the person when they need it the most.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
While Philam's singer Olivia Rodrigo's major category wins were enough to catch netizens' attention, her brief appearance in BTS's Butter performance only made her more of a trending topic. K-pop idol V whispered to Olivia and showed her a mysterious note before going on stage to sing. This is the first time BTS performed on the Grammy stage in person. Vocalist Jin could not dance alongside other members for the entire song because he is recovering from surgery on his finger. But fans were thankful all 7 members made it on stage, with Jungkook only being released from COVID-19 quarantine last Saturday. BTS also attended as nominees for a category but lost Best Pop Duo or Group Performance to Doja Cat and SZA's Kiss Me More. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Iya Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Thank you.